In the mosques of the little towns of the Riyadh district, the word went out that the Al Saud had returned, and with them the fierce commitment to Sharia law and Islamic values.
واذكروا نعمة الله عليكم إذ كنتم أعداء فألف بين قلوبكم فأصبحتم بنعمته إخوانا. يا أيها المسلمون، إن من فضل الله عز وجل على هذه البلاد أن جمع كلمة أهلها على التوحيد وإقامة شريعتها السمحة، وذلك بفضل الله عز وجل ثم بفضل عبد العزيز.
يعني في تلك الأيام
People in those days saw in AbdulAziz their values and their manners. They saw in AbdulAziz their hopes and wishes and expectations, and that's why they followed him willingly, because they were very religious people too.
AbdulAziz and his father began to reach out to the tribes and emirs who controlled the oases. One by one they fell in behind him, and in 1903 AbdulAziz felt strong enough to unify the lands, moving northwest into Qasim.
We found out that bin Saud, having arrived in Buraida, left with the flags of Riyadh, then passed to Uneza. Then he went to Al-Ras. He got to a place called Ibn Gail about 10 or 11 at night. I saw him praying on a sand dune. Later on, I sat across from him, and we ate from his lunch. Ibn Gail brought his food and milk, and all of us, the hungry ones, sat and ate. He said to us, "With good health." It's true, we ate his lunch.
After a drawn battle at Bukhariya, AbdulAziz set out to attack at Shinana. The Al-Rashid was supported by Turkish troops with artillery, but AbdulAziz was undeterred.
We, the young ones, ate his lunch. Then he just jumped on his horse and started to strike out at them in all directions. He did not find bin Rashid because he just started the battle and fled. AbdulAziz struck them on all sides until he was victorious. We, the young ones, ran after him. The scene turned to ashes, and bin Rashid ran away.
The victory had been won, and AbdulAziz added Qasim to his lands. The Ottomans resorted to negotiations with AbdulAziz. Turkish garrisons were later withdrawn from Qasim. In Arabia at that time, it was not enough for a ruler to control the towns. Outside in the desert were the Bedouin tribes, leading a nomadic life, preying on the townsfolk and each other. Their raids and counter-raids led to blood feuds and instability. To ensure security, AbdulAziz had to enforce Islamic law between the tribes and the townsfolk.
All the tribes in Nejd had big armies, horses and men. All of them were strong. All of the Nejd Bedouins claimed to have the truth, and no one could really overpower them. When AbdulAziz came, he saw many awful divisions between the tribes.
In bringing about security, force was not enough. To settle the tribes, AbdulAziz tried a revolutionary new policy. He enlisted the power of Islam. He sent preachers to the tribes, who urged them to settle down in fixed communities or hijar around the wells and the mosques, made up of different tribes devoted to farming, not war.
He called upon them and sent people asking them to believe in God and his messenger. He provided them with the books on faith written by Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab. He called them to be citizens and supplied them with ammunition to fight the enemies of God and his messenger. If they did not become one entity, he said, Satan would make them fight one another.
The movement took hold. The tribes returned enthusiastically to Islamic faith and styled themselves Ikhwan. Eventually, there were more than 200 settlements. It was a significant social change. The first hijrah was founded in 1913. Security and peace prevailed in the regions. The Ikhwan, with the townsfolk, provided a ready source of brave, committed soldiers for AbdulAziz's army.
We believe that Allah, the Exalted One, uses us as his instrument. As long as we serve him, we will succeed. No power can check us, and no enemy will be able to kill us.
AbdulAziz sent them teachers and books on religion and the traditions of the Prophet. When through the grace of God they felt themselves on the road to paradise, they said, "Oh AbdulAziz, we are ready to fight."
AbdulAziz's rule at this time extended only over the center of Arabia. But now his reputation for security and reliance on Islamic practice was to bring rewards elsewhere, in Al-Hassa to the east. Al-Hassa was a vast oasis, rich in dates, and it had at one time been under the Al Saud. Now it was ruled by the Ottoman Turks, but they were unable to control the violence of the tribes who surrounded the oasis.
The Turkish authorities were making deals with Bedouin gangs to divide the spoils they looted. At that time, local figures saw there was no way out of this crisis except to contact King Abdulaziz.
The religious leaders in Al-Hassa had had close contacts with Riyadh for years. So in 1912, they sent a letter to AbdulAziz inviting him to come to Al-Hassa. AbdulAziz was afraid the British might replace the Turks in Al-Hassa. So, having tricked the tribes who surrounded Al-Hassa to move off to the north, AbdulAziz set off with 900 men.
We were already in view of Al-Hufuf. From the sand dune on which I was sitting, I could clearly see the walls of the powerful citadel overlooking the town. My heart was heavy with indecision. I felt tired. I longed for peace and home. I suddenly found that my mind had made a decision regarding the war. I would attack Al-Hufuf, and God would lead me to victory.
AbdulAziz sent his people ahead, according to his plan to climb the walls of Hufuf and take positions inside the town.
From the side of the western wall of Al-Qut, they prepared a special hole for his entrance. They erected ladders for him in the bottom of the trench, which he climbed and entered through this hole.
He was received by the people of the town, who gave him their allegiance.
And the Ottoman soldiers were scared, and they started firing recklessly in the air. In the morning, the Turkish governor tried to use force.
Eventually, the Turks surrendered.
The agreement was reached between King Abdulaziz and the Turkish governor Ahmed Nadim, who surrendered his authority and left with his 1,200 soldiers and military honor intact.
Having taken over Al-Hassa, AbdulAziz had to deal with the tribesmen who had previously preyed on the oasis.
When these tribes knew that AbdulAziz had entered Al-Hassa, they felt that the breast that was feeding them milk was cut off. So they got mad and fought him for 2 years.
It was a bitter war. During the fighting, AbdulAziz's brother, Sa'ad, was killed and he himself wounded by one of the tribesmen.
So he aimed at him and hit him in his belt, which was full of bullets. The bullets exploded. He was badly wounded and he fell to the ground.
The war was finally balanced. If word got out that AbdulAziz was wounded, his enemies would take heart. He swiftly arranged to get married.